Okay, we started recording. This is a bit of a spontaneous video. A lot of my yapping videos are, to be completely genuine with you. Like, even if I upload it on the gaming channel or if I upload it on the Bajorne channel, even the video essay channel has these spontaneous videos because there's a point that my mind waits for something to actually become widespread enough for me to actually consider it worth talking about. Not necessarily a problem, but worth talking about. With this, I think it's a problem. Like, I actually think this is a genuine problem. I think if the Overwatch 2 community and YouTubers didn't have this, that they would be doing a bit better when it comes to their opinions and stuff. I'm trying to think of a easy support to play so I don't get too. I'll just do Brigitte. She's not exactly easy, but she's a bit simpler. Um, anyway, the
Breaking me down just builds me up.
the main thing is that I see things get tossed around so much that don't really make sense with the initial feelings of the season. Like,
I think I can make this
removing the
work.
two definitely brought back some interesting things because people were saying so many different things before they said they were removing the two, which I actually don't know if they're still doing. I don't know if they're still removing the two. It doesn't look like it to me because I'm pretty sure that like on Steam it's still Overwatch 2. I might be wrong on that. I might be just like placebo affecting myself. But I'm pretty sure it's still okay. I got yoinked. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's still just Overwatch. And to me, them removing the two does not mean anything. And the reason it does not mean anything is because the two didn't mean anything in the first place, or that's what I thought the player base sentiment was. You know, that's what I thought people thought because that's what they were saying. They were saying that this isn't an actual sequel. So, and then they treated removing the two like this great update when really it's more like a hot fix that we've been waiting on for 2 years. Or I mean, not me personally, because I do not care about the two or the one. Like, I'm actually one of the people who will tell you that Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 were different even on release. Like, I will tell you that those two games were different enough on both releases. Completely different hero counts, completely different style on the UI, and different server issues, different community. I think that the community changed over time. I think that there were certain like parts of Overwatch 2 at a more of a player level maybe that were actually different. More of a player kind of experience. Like 5v5 is not that big of a change realistically on like the kernel level. If you take uh if you take Team Fortress 2 and you like take the Team Fortress 2 and you take the public player limit to basically like let's say 15 instead of whatever it's at. It might be 16, it might be 20. Or it's probably actually 12. So let's say they make it so the player limit is 9. So that fits like the current amount of classes and it's all cool. Now, with the like the way that the community is, they would okay. I forgot to mute team chat. Um, I'm not gonna be good this game. I'm just not. Like, I know this going, and I'm gonna focus on what I'm talking about. I think that's more important because I'm recording a video. But I think that changing Overwatch from 66 to 5v5 is a bigger change than people think, but it also isn't a big change. And I think that makes it worth, like, considering when you're considering if Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 1 are different games. And to me, they are. It's kind of like saying, to me at least, if Left 4 Dead 1 or Left 4 Dead 2 are different games. Like, if people took a look at those two games, they would say, like, okay, you still have Coach, you still have main cast, you still have the main zombies, you still have stuff like that. What's the difference? What's the difference? I mean, like, with Overwatch, I feel like these people got their expectations set so spectacularly absurd. Not even high, just absurd. Like, oh yeah, they're gonna put a ton of perks in the game. They're gonna, like, we hadn't even had the perk system yet. We hadn't seen them do something like that yet. And I guess back then, with a game company that had made this, you know, it wasn't very hard to believe. But they weren't being transparent with what was happening on the inside, because we had two different people with two different visions of what they wanted the development cycle to be, and that ended up kind of ripping the game apart like two children fighting over a teddy bear. Now, I wouldn't say it actually got completely ruined from that. Like, I think at its core, a lot of Overwatch's enjoyment and a lot of Overwatch's problems can be solved by your own compensation, and then past that, it's like, yeah, eventually it does become the Overwatch problem. But I'd say that a lot of people anger themselves by looking at by actually looking at the scoreboard. I don't I don't really care that I'm 1-5 right now. I don't think about that. And whenever I glance at the scoreboard, it's more of just a check. Like, it's just a little glance. But before, when I did it, it was like, oh man, I'm 1-5. Oh man, they're 1-6. Oh no, my teammates are. Oh no. Oh no, we're negative. It's quick play. That's okay. Okay. Just locking in a little bit here, because he actually did do a good ult. That was a nice ult, dude. Shoot. Okay. I selected the wrong part. I think I'm gonna end the Overwatch 1, Overwatch 2 thing right there. Basically, like, my actual thoughts, my personal thoughts, is that Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 on release were different enough to actually be considered different games, and I don't think it necessarily deserved a sequel. I don't think it needed a sequel, and I don't think it necessarily, like, earned that sequel. And they definitely did have promises that weren't kept. I still don't think that means that it's not a sequel. If Left 4 Dead 2 wasn't good, we wouldn't be talking about how it wasn't Left 4 Dead 2. I think a sequel of a game is determined by difference from the first, rather than how good it was. And I think it's interesting that the Overwatch 2 community focused on how the sequel wasn't better than the first, and they had their expectations set for the sequel being better in the first place. So I think the Overwatch 2 community lets their expectations be set by the developers very, very easily, and it does not make sense whatsoever. So it's kind of weird to me, because, like, they have been wronged and mistreated by these developers so many different times. And then they just go back to, like, okay, they're doing this now, maybe it'll work. It's like, come on, guys, can you pick one of your takes? It's literally just happened with the Overwatch 2, Overwatch 1 thing. If them adding a 2 wasn't actually a sequel, why is them taking away the 2? Why does that mean anything? Because I was seeing takes that the 2 didn't mean anything because they didn't actually make a different game. So, okay, sure. fine, following that logic, removing the 2 should just be an expected thing at this point, and it would be more like a Sombra nerf patch, like, oh man, she was really powerful, man, you know, like, they really needed nerfed her. You know, me personally, I don't care about Sombra, but the rest of the player base does, and I think that's a fitting example, because when Sombra gets a nerf, and then she's out of the games because all the Sombra mains don't, I mean, it can't play, and then the Sombra mains keep getting banned in competitive, then yeah, sure, you know, it's, the problem is fixed, but you don't see people talking about Sombra every week, because Sombra was just an expected problem to be solved. Like, eventually she would get nerfed, or eventually, you know, something like that. But, it's confusing to watch them say that the 2 didn't matter, and then when it got removed, it was like, oh my gosh. It was like a tumor, you know, which it really wasn't a tumor. I feel like people simultaneously didn't care about the 2, and also cared about it so much because it was a representation of adding something they didn't care about. It was against the player base's wish. So that's something that I'm confused about with the player base, just like, why do we kind of appreciate them for removing something that we have complained about from the start and devalued from the start? That doesn't make sense to me. The other thing, the 5 new heroes. I think there are some people who really wanted new heroes, and there's some people who really didn't. And then there's other people who are just not really caring. I'm a little bit of like, we don't need new heroes, but I don't really care if we get them. Like, Mitsuki is pretty nice. I haven't checked out Onron personally because she's a DPS character. And I just, you know, I don't usually play DPS, and I ended up playing the guy instead. I ended up playing the fire dude. I genuinely forgot his name. But Emre. And then for tank, I have not tried Domina. I know that it's not my playstyle. Like, it's gotta... I don't usually play shield characters. I hard main Doomfist for the tank category. I think support category is actually one of the only categories that I know how to play like 6 heroes in. And I'm fine with that. But anyway, I think I finished up the Overwatch 1, Overwatch 2 thing. Right, I was talking about the new heroes. So, there's old players who don't actually want new heroes, and they kind of feel like the new heroes ruin the place of the older heroes. And I actually think this is a bit of a natural consequence. I think if you have older players sticking around playing heroes, then you'll actually keep those older heroes around. I think having older players keeps around older things that have gotten kind of buried under. And I think as long as you have that, you'll have people who are kind of fighting to keep relevance, even without realizing it. So I think they'll be okay. I think that, you know, older characters, older, like, as far as the skins goes, I'm gonna be so honest with you. I don't get complaining about the skins. I don't get it, okay? Like, listen, every character in this game has plenty of skins. And I mean every. Okay, they all have plenty of skins in number. Now, the quality and the variety of those definitely depends. But honestly, I feel like there's not a lot of personalization with Overwatch skins. It's actually mostly about what looks nice, but not necessarily what looks like somebody's like, what somebody wants to portray. Like, for me, I like red. I like red, I like gold, I like black. And I like a bit of a scrappy style, I like a bit of a medieval style. So I played Gladiator Doomfist, like I had Gladiator skin on Doomfist for a while. It actually got permanently attached to, like, my mental with Doomfist. Like, if I didn't wear that skin, I would actually actively, like, be your Doomfist teammate. I would be your Doomfist teammate. And if I had the Gladiator skin, I would actually be the enemy Doomfist. I'm not even kidding. Like, I have zero, almost zero clips of games where I didn't have that skin on, and I performed well. I think there was one instance where I got that quad punch with the old Doomfist perk, but, you know, some people want new heroes and some people don't. I'm in the boat of actually, I think we do need new heroes, but I also think we need to focus on the main game first. I think that genuinely, like, I think the game actually focuses on making the players happy more than it focuses on making the game good. And part of those two things are in tandem, but I also think that you can actually make a player base happy without making your game good. And to be completely honest with you, I think Overwatch is actually one of the biggest examples of how to do that in a very subtle way. A very subtle way. Because there are heroes that they will keep the way they are. Like Doomfist. Even though people complain about, when he's on their team it's hit or miss, when he's on the enemy team it's hit or miss. So either way, you either have this pub stomper or you have this negative tank. And nobody likes a negative tank. There's this weird fixation on the tank for some reason, and I don't know why. It doesn't really make sense. To me, all the roles are actually pretty equal. I mean, really, for the most part, I don't really care about how much effort each class takes or how much effort each hero takes. Like, take example Moira. I'm not kidding when I tell you I couldn't play Moira. It's because I'd never played her. And with Mei, I probably couldn't play her either because I haven't played her. But the thing with both of these two is that the way they do damage is over time, close range, and easy to aim. And, she has a far range alternative, but I don't really care about that. And neither do most Mei players, but the ones that do actually get some pretty good shots from what I've, been hit by. Oh wow, that was a nice grapple. The way that people talk about new heroes, and new content or old content, new content is always kind of a... If it's good, then it's way too much hype, bro. Like, it's way too much. And maybe Overwatch is just full of older gamers, and maybe that's why they're a little stupid. But new gamers are stupid too, so that wouldn't really explain it. There's a... I feel like not even 20 minutes really explains what I see in the Overwatch 2 community. Like, there's a very large problem of general mentality when it comes to this game. Like, not just unhealthy playstyle or unhealthy competitive habits or something like that. I think it lies even deeper than those things, and that's already a pretty deep cut. Like, thinking about a game's, effect on your mental in the game by playing it, which, by the way, is kind of inherently vicious. Like, I don't really think you should have a game that, you need to actively think about taking a break to... I think, taking an active break from the competitive of a game that you want to get better at is something that you should be able to realize without contemplating. I don't think that should be a contemplation. I think that should either be simple or okay, I need to go to bed. But not something where you're already feeling exhausted and you've played 3 games. These games don't last that long. At most they last 15 to 20 minutes. It's not even a Deep Rock Galactic mission, and a Deep Rock Galactic mission feels infinitely more worthwhile. Completely different games, I know. The main thing is that the competitive environment in Overwatch 2, I think, is inherently bad for gamers that don't actively think about the way they think about their game. They're not checking themselves for what they're saying, Orisa counters Doomfist. The reason that I'm losing to this Orisa right now is because I am yapping, and I am not locked in whatsoever. But you know, I'm negative. I did not see that. See, every time, like, it's just, they keep putting it really forward. They keep putting the trap really forward. That's not usually what I see. I see a trap, like, where they are. They put it, like, right beneath their feet, right as I charge my fist. But they're actually doing it ahead of time, and that's a smart Junkrat. Um, by Junkrat standards, at least. But, see, stuff like that. Stuff like that. I can't say smart Junkrat and just have that standalone. Because people don't like Junkrat. People believe Junkrat players are inherently um, playing a character that makes it easier in the game for them. And I think the fixation on how easy or hard a character is reveals that the Overwatch 2 player base is in a constant struggle with like playing the game. I think that if you had a slightly easier game, then they wouldn't exactly be caring about how easy it is, or if you had a different mindset towards it, like just focusing on your own hero and fucking playing the game, dude. But if you focus on your own hero and you play the game, then what happens is that the other people around you are still going to affect you. So you have your own personal stuff for the game, and then you have your teammates around you. And a lot of times, people will let themselves get riled up over their teammates because they see it as a justification. They see it as justice. I see it as a waste of time. I see, like, I actively mute chat, and I used to be pissed off at the idea of muting chat. Not pissed off, that's extreme. I used to be irritated every time that I would, like, open up my menu and mute team chat and match chat. And I would just do that whenever I was performing badly on Doomfist. Because in this game, it is unacceptable to be performing poorly if you have a team that is paying attention. Because they feel like they're paying attention and they're trying their best, and then they have a tank that's not exactly trying their best, and that's a problem. Here's the thing, nobody is going to try the same amount in any game. In Deep Rock Galactic, we still have slackers. You know what we do? We just carry them. We don't care. Now, it's a competitive game. It's certainly a competitive game, and that's what makes the performance kind of matter. But at the same time, I feel like quick play should be a lot more crappy. I think that quick play should be a lot more crappy. Because I think that if quick play was a lot more inconsistent and a lot more like game to game, and like one game is one game is really high skill and the other game is like really low skill, and then the other game is just the other games are troll games where like you've got these mirror matches and uh knocks off the map. And I think that the way that people interact with quick play is not fucking casual. It's quick play. They're trying to get a really fast experience of competitive while not playing competitive and also not have a rank, even though they have an MMR. I really think that if you displayed a match pool to people in unranked, the the team or like sorry, the player base would be fuming. Not even because that's a bad feature or because they hate the feature, it's because the feature would reveal everything they hate about competitive into quick play. And it's because quick play functions in a similar uh queue pool, in a similar um rank system towards competitive, but competitive has a lot more layers to it. It tries to find more accurate skill level. I think with unranked, I mean, what do you get when you're trying to do your placements in competitive? You get some pretty random teammates. Like you get some bad ones, some really good ones, some ones that you think are going to go to gold, and some ones that you think are going to go to plastic 5. And when that happens, you just gotta remember that it's placements. I think that telling people who are bad at the game that they are bad at the game does not really improve people who are bad at the game, which, like, I guess it makes sense that people don't want to actually be productive with their teammates or they like, improve them over time. They just want them to be good right now. They just want them to be good right now, right here. And if they're not, then that is a bit of a problem. Now, apart from that, I think that maybe people just sort of. I think people being the way they are about unranked and being the way they are about Overwatch 1 versus Overwatch 2 and the new heroes and the new skins and Mercy getting two skins and the weapon skins and how expensive mythic skins are and this new UI, this new menu UI. What are they cooking? What were they trying to do? I actually haven't seen any negative feedback on this. I think it's a nice UI. I don't think we needed a change, but I think that it's a nice UI. I definitely missed the way that you would click on challenges and then it would take, well, you would click on challenges and it would take you to the progression tab, but now you actually have to go on an individual hero basis and click on progression over here. So it was a bit of a learning curve. The thing about Overwatch is the moment that you get a new menu is the moment where you start feeling like no, you have no idea where anything is, and you feel like you're a new player discovering things. So maybe that's an intentional mental effect, and I think that's fucked up because making Overwatch 2 players feel like they have something new again for the player base that complains about a game that isn't actually new and needs to have the 2 removed. And then when the 2 gets removed, suddenly it actually feels new. That makes no goddamn sense. I'm sorry, buddy. Can you explain to me how we have, let me just count right here. We have 14 supports. We have 14 tanks. I think I'm counting that right. Yeah, 14 tanks, 14 supports. So that's 28 characters right there. And then we have 11 by 11, 22. So 22 plus 28, uh that's 50. We have 50 heroes, guys. I'm just gonna pull it up right now. What was the hold on. I'm just gonna take that away. But what was the Overwatch 2 character count on release? What was the Overwatch 2 character count on release? And if we look at that, it was 35. So we have gotten 20 heroes since the launch of this game. And the weirdest thing is that I feel like people were waiting on Overwatch 2 to become the 2. Like I feel like people had a subconscious hope that like after about 3 months of being out, they would actually add everything, which is kind of the way they worded things with the PvE. And everybody was so focused on the PvE, and I didn't actually play the first game. I think something that's very important from my perspective that you need to understand is that I did not play Overwatch 1. I played the tutorial, and then I never got the game again. I played the tutorial all the way back in like fucking 20, maybe like 2018. And my brother actually played Genji for a little bit, but I actually never got to be on the Xbox at the same time because he had bought the game and my account needed him to be signed in for it, and he was at work a lot. So, you know. But it's important to preface that I have not experienced an Overwatch 1. I have experienced an Overwatch 2. But I think regardless that once a game company changes the 1 to a 2, I don't think I've ever seen a different player base like ever say that, oh, this isn't a real sequel. They should drop the 2. I mean, seriously. No, like, I want to know if there's any other examples of this, because to me, this is kind of outrageous. This is like somebody telling their corporate company that they work under in fast food. Like if you work at a JCW's and they add the Supreme Oreo shake and you don't think it's a Supreme Oreo shake. You think it's just an Oreo shake. You think they just did the same thing. And then you tell them to like, remove the Supreme. It's like, bro, you work under the company. Like, I'm sorry, does this make sense to people with the way that the develop? Yeah, I'm sorry if you guys can hear me adjusting my mic, boom arm. But does it make any sense to people that we literally had less feedback in Overwatch 1? We were literally at more whims of the developers than our actual feedback towards them. And we were having less patches and we were having more gameplay and like Overwatch brand driven updates. And that was how it was. And the most of the culture was developed just in the current moment. We weren't hoping for, well, like, okay, at least if you weren't delusional, you weren't really hoping for what would be in the next patch because you couldn't really get much feedback through. And if you did, then it would take like a couple years. And you would have a lot of seasons, a lot of skins, a lot of loot boxes, a lot of whatever, you know. But the thing that doesn't make sense to me at all is how people who were experiencing all of that somehow expected them to take off the two. Somehow expected them to make sure the PvE comes out faster, or make the PvE come out at all, or else they'll leave the game. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that the most important thing to realize about Overwatch 2 players when Marvel Rivals released is that it had a representation that some of our players were just gamers. I think some of our players were just gamers. I think they were just gamers. And I will belittle that. And I will belittle those people. And I will diminish their credit towards this game. Because I have stayed playing this game. I mean, let's check my history in well, hold on, statistics. Competitive season. I have never technically missed a season in the statistics, but I'm trying to look for I guess I can't really look for it. But I remember one thing was season 8, season 9, season 10, stuff like that. Or oh wait, no, I can check my customization, my name cards. And then just go to the seasons progression and see what I missed. So yeah, that would be accurate. Wow. Yeah, season 17 definitely. I did not know I had this. That is actually that is a banger player card or name card. But you can see the seasons where I played more and I played less. So I played season 19 a lot, and then I didn't play season 20 much at all, and I didn't play season 18 much at all. And I actually remember looking for friends who would play the game because I couldn't get into it myself. And my new motivation for the game that was keeping me there was uh friends. Anyway, season 17 I didn't play a lot. And then season 16, season 15, season 14 was a bit of a start of when I started playing, and then season 15 and 16 were, the Seraphim. It actually had the mythic for Zenyatta, so I was big Zenyatta main. I've always been a big Zenyatta main, but like that was when I was actually playing. And then season season 11 is when it dropped off. I was here for the season 10 after all those changes. I didn't experience the initial drop of season 9, but all the health changes I actually never really cared. I actually didn't really feel the biggest change. I didn't really notice much. And at the time, I think I had about like 250 to 300 hours on the game. So it's not like, yeah, it was actually during like one of my peaks in playing the game, and it was actually something that caused me to just stop playing. And I think it was because the changes to the armor felt really bad to 1v1 tanks with, and I also think they at some point made a change where the knockback against the tank wasn't that extreme anymore. So I couldn't kick them off the map as Zenyatta, so that made it a lot less fun. And here's the thing, I will be blatant about that. I'm a Zenyatta player, dude. Of course, it's not going to be fun when I can't kick people off the map. But instead of going to a different hero to keep myself playing the game, I just quit. I'm going to link a video actually in the description here that will perfectly agree with what I'm saying here and also perfectly explain what the Overwatch 2 experience is. Like, what it is. From a player who had actually played in Overwatch 1. But anyway, the the big thing, uh, I think that the things that the Overwatch player base says do not line up with what they've said before, and the takes they have are either selfish, too objective to actually be objective. Like they're trying too hard to encapsulate everything, and they actually end up missing a really big part of it because they're focusing on one big part and not all the big parts. I think that the way they think about new heroes or heroes in general is based on a meta counter and a difficulty or like a skill in the floor, a skill ceiling and floor. I think their view is based off of that rather than how much fun people have playing the hero or how much fun they have. And they don't view it with like a teach to each their own thing. They view it with a get the fuck off of Kiriko. I have had so many ultimates taken from me from Kiriko, and I have had so many like fists that just I had a Kiriko one game that actually just cleansed every single punch that I did. And I didn't think she would do it because I knew that that was a bit of a waste on Suzu cooldown. I wasn't even that good at like getting the chain punches where like you get four people in a single punch and it kind of chains the electricity and then it knocks all of them back. I wasn't that good at lining that up back then. And then they just Suzu'd them all anyway, which I guess they really just didn't want to be punched. I don't know why you wouldn't want to be punched by like a 3 foot uh like I don't know why you wouldn't want to be punched by like a mini fridge sized fist. That I can't relate. Anyway, the the way that they talk about heroes is more as something to judge people on than just whatever people play. And I hate it when people do this in Team Fortress 2 as well. I think this is a problem in Team Fortress 2 too. Like, come on, guys. Pyro, soldier, heavy, or engineer, or any of the classes cannot have that horrible of people, or not have like that horrible of like a playstyle to play against. You literally have all of the tools you need to counter in that game. And the neat thing is, if you play the counter game and you don't continue countering, which is something that Team Fortress 2 players have different loadouts, but they don't have different heroes. So it doesn't change the core, but it changes it enough to give them the edge they need or to take away the edge from the enemy team. And I think that is infinitely more valuable than complaining about the counters and the swaps and like telling bad players to swap. I actually just found my next tangent. The competitive environment in this game is stupid. Unranked and quick play are basically the same thing. The one difference is that they have bans, and bans are only accepted by the player base because everybody accepts the idea of counters. I have always agreed with Vincent. Sorry, not Vincent. Awkward. I have always agreed with awkward. Not to the same extent, but I have agreed with this sentiment that if you are good enough at a character, that there are no counts. I agree with that sentiment, genuinely. I think there's difficulties, like if I'm playing Doomfist, then Orisa, yeah, sure, I have to watch for her javelin. Roadhog, I have to space myself, wait for him to airball his hook, and then, punch in, dive in, and then dive out. And then block his shotgun stuff, which is actually really good meter. And then with somebody like Sigma, it's actually really not that hard to play against. I mean, sometimes you can time your block around his rock, and I don't think many Sigma mains know that his rock, like if you have half block meter on Doomfist and he hits you with the rock, that damage actually still goes through before it actually knocks you down. It has something to do with the way that the damage and the stun is timed in the game. And I don't know why it's done that way, but I do like it because it makes it so when I get up next, it means that I have a charge punch to hit them back with, so I have my own stun. But and Mauga, like Mauga, he basically is just a neutral game. Like he is a insanely hyper version of Orisa in the way that I literally just have to play Fist State and neutral, which is something that I feel like most Doomfist mains don't really talk about, but it's basically just where you are punching in and slamming out and blocking and punching in and slamming out, and that's basically just the whole process. But you time that based around cooldowns and what the damage is doing. But none of that matters to my teammate who just sees, oh my gosh, my tank is 4 and 5. He must be doing horrible. He can't be doing his best. This would be so much better if we had Nerissa. I'm sorry, but why do you play competitive? Do you just play it for the rank? Because the reason I play competitive is so I can have some slightly more reliable teammates, so I can get some competitive points for gold skins, and so I can see improvement in a competitive environment. Because quick play is not a competitive environment. It is only mentally a competitive environment to like half the people who play that. But I think no matter how many of those people there are, quick play will never be a competitive environment. Because people play it too quick to fucking do that. But anyway, people care way too much about your stats in competitive. I think everybody needs to turn off the scoreboard. I wish you could turn off the scoreboard. I wish. Because I think people need to spend some time playing quick play to mentally configure that, like, pressing tab every fucking second does not work to improve their gameplay. And, I think you should turn it off based off game mode, like turning it off in quick play versus competitive. Because in competitive, you would have hackers and stuff, so having that quick report would be nice. Um, basically, oh yeah, next thing is map voting. I think map voting is stupid. Same thing with bans. Both of those. The thing is that you cannot give democracy to an uneducated population and expect them to vote for the things that are actually good for them. What Overwatch 2 players do is they ban whatever they think is powerful. Whatever they think is powerful. That is a very important thing, okay? Look at this. Sombra.
Hmm.
It's just Sombra. You know the crazy thing? The entire player base probably has impulsive thoughts about this character, like how much CC they give them, or how much they've been hacked, or how much they've been killed by this character. Genuinely, from the fucking start. I started out as a Zenyatta main. I started out as a Zenyatta main, and the thing that I don't get about people in this game is that I started out on one of the slowest, hardest to aim, and hardest to play supports at the time. He wasn't that good in the start of like Overwatch 2 for a beginner, at least. For a beginner, Zenyatta teaches you a lot if you are willing to learn. If you're not willing to learn, Zenyatta will just make you hate the game. Because you're slow, because you're getting hacked, you're getting Maywalled, you're getting May-iced. You have, like, one of the biggest hitboxes in the game for not being a tank. You have one of the biggest extended hitboxes. I actually don't know if they fixed that or not. I should check that. But either way, when I played back then, I know that the hitbox was still the way that it looks in those meme pictures. And the aiming up close gets even harder because his projectiles aren't really that fast, but they're not that slow. That's kind of like the EPG from Titanfall 2. And, uh, hold on. Just had to respond to something. Anyway, Zenyatta, if you are going to play Zenyatta as long as I have, if you are going to play Zenyatta for 229 hours, and if you're going to have those based across how many quick play and competitive games you have had. Like if I look at quick play and time played, alright, not current, yeah, competitive seasons. If you have 71 hours in competitive and then you have 134 hours in quick play, then in order to do that, you need to learn to play against quote unquote counters. Because what I will tell you, what I have learned is that there are counters that stay around as genuine threats, and there's other counters that genuinely two headshots from a volley and they're gone. Like Symmetra or Sombra, May, Junkrat, or Genji, Bastion, or Cassidy, or Pharah, or Reaper, or Vendetta, or Widowmaker, especially Widowmaker. They stand so still. It's very easy. And then you have Orisa. Again, headshots, ball. Just keep hitting him. Hog, headshots. Keep your distance. Diva, crits. Keep your distance. Doomfist. Don't stay grouped up. Ramantra, keep your distance. Junker Queen, keep your distance. Hazard, keep your distance. You know the craziest thing? You're a poke character and most people don't keep their fucking distance. And you have the biggest hitbox in the game, but most people won't use cover. And you have some of the best damage in the game, but most people don't get that many kills. They try to focus too much on his healing. Or some Zen mains focus way too much on the damage and not enough on the healing. I think that your healing and your damage matter because you have both, and you have utility for your team to use both. And the fact that the player base cannot use this hero to its fullest potential when they are a support main is a very, very, very big sign. Zenyatta, if you are starting out in the game, teaches you so much of how counters actually work. Counters are not counters. Counter is a extreme term for difficult characters. And to genuinely like Flats probably subconsciously thinks of a counter as a difficult character to play against. He probably thinks about it in different extremes for different heroes. Like Doomfist probably has slightly more extreme counters than Zenyatta, or maybe Zenyatta has more extreme counters than Doomfist. I think that Flats thinks about things with nuance without trying to describe the level of nuance because he is talking to fucking monkeys. I think that Flats would say a lot more and he would say a lot better things. And I think he's already great. He is already peak. But I think without this player base judging him, we would have even better commentary from him. If he could be completely honest. If he could be completely honest to how his chat is horrible sometimes, or how the game is actually kind of good sometimes. Or how tank actually kind of feels good sometimes. Like, imagine if we could have a spontaneous flats that doesn't need to think as much about what he says, and he can just say his blatant takes, and then if he needs refinement, then he can refine it later on if he doesn't agree with himself, if he looks back, but not if we say that it contradicts or if it doesn't line up. I think that content creators should be changing their takes based off of what they think is personally true to themselves and what they're being honest about, not necessarily what the player base thinks they should say. I don't know how I got here from here to map. Oh well, hold on. I was talking about hero bands. So hero bands are based around characters that people think are powerful, and counters are based around characters that people think are powerful. I think Sombra is treated like a universal counter for every character in the game, which technically that is actually her design. But I wouldn't say it necessarily counts because it's Sombra. And to be honest with you, I don't really care. Um, Same thing with the JCW's analogy from earlier. I think that people talking about like what they should change in the way they do is so pretentious. Like players have really got it good and they don't actually realize that. It's crazy that they even gave us bans when we didn't need them. The majority of us didn't need them. You know who needed them? Top rank players who couldn't stop abusing the meta. Top rank players who actually can abuse the meta. Low rank players can't abuse the meta. They can use it, but they can't abuse it. Like people using Emre or Mitsuki at top rank or Domina. Like using Domina, Mizuki, or Emre, or Anran. Or Jetpekka. Like abusing Jetpekka, abusing the new characters in the fact that like they're not horrible on runes. In high ranks is common, but more importantly, it's actually a viable strategy because high rank players can understand how these characters interact with the game. And sure, they might not get every strat down in the beginning, but dude, it takes them like 2 days because of how much they play. High rank players are usually pretty active. But even with all that, hero bans still, to me, are not worth it because people will not learn to play against the heroes they ban. Genuinely, tell me, what is better to you? Being able to kill a Sombra or being able to ban a Sombra? I wish more people thought about this, genuinely. Like, what do you value more? Being able to defeat what defeated you so many times, being able to, like, overcome that and being able to fight against it, or just, staying countered? Do you care more about the fact that your counters are counters, or do you care more about not staying countered and becoming uncountered, becoming uncounterable, changing your playstyle? Genuinely, what do you care more about? I ask these questions like there's a responsive audience to my videos. I'd say a good 400 of my subscribers never look at my videos, and a good 70 of them have not checked on me in a year. That leaves about 10 people that can potentially check on my videos. But anyway, bans are not good for low ranks. I think that past a certain rank, like maybe plat. I think plat is when they should introduce bans. I don't think gold players are good enough for bans. I think plat players are good enough for bans, but barely. I just want to make it early so that way it's not that hard to access bans. Because I think bans are kind of nice. Some people feel like they genuinely can't learn with this motherfucker in these games. I admit this motherfucker in their games. On map votes is going to be very simple. I do not think map votes should matter when maps are not our meta. We are not in a map based meta. Maps do not overly determine what character you should and shouldn't play, and they do not hinder you as much as they used to in Overwatch 1 during that map-based meta time. Like, seriously, the way that they talk about map voting is like, oh, everybody vote King's Row. Like, sure, that's the meme, but the way people vote, the way that everybody crawls towards like Ishbaranza or King's Row or any of the maps that everybody votes for confuses me. Like, really, what bad memories do people have on these maps? Um, Apart from that, I think that genuinely for quick play, listen, I think I'm a little okay with map voting in competitive because maps do determine a bit. They do determine a little bit. I think it's okay to have map voting in competitive. I think map voting is all right. For quick play, it makes it genuinely less quick. And I know it's not called quick play anymore, but I think that oh well, hold on, actually it is. Unranked is just the category now. Yeah, no. I think quick play is made less quick by map votes, and I don't think it benefits from them. I think that if we have just a randomized map that everybody loads into, and we have less wait time, and we have less everything, and also probably, honestly, reduce the objective time, but keep the bonus time the same. So that way there's more urgency to actually play. Like, play objective. Apart from that, I think that map and bans should be restricted to competitive, not just bans. I think map voting should be restricted to competitive, but realistically, I think that both should be removed. And if we are going to keep around one, it should be hero bans, and it should be kept to plat and above. It is a skill ceiling that people never decided to break. And with the new heroes, I think that people aren't really open and accepting to the change. They either like it or they don't, so they are very judgmental of new heroes. Um, Dropping the two and celebrating does not make sense when we were telling the developers that the two didn't make sense in the first place, and it didn't really mean anything, and it was still Overwatch 1. And like every time you would mention Overwatch 2, and you would be like, what changed? And you hadn't played the game since they released Overwatch 2. It was such a piss off to me, like such a rant trigger to hear somebody who was not currently playing the game talk about the game like they knew exactly what was happening. Like they talked about it like people living under inflation talk about inflation. Like when people talk about inflation, yeah, of course I believe them, bro. A monster can is like $3.90. The deal doesn't even get you like 2 for $4. It gets you 2 for $5.50. And then eventually that ends up being like $11 at the cash register. That sucks, dude. That was only 2 monsters. And then if you get a 12 pack, that's still only like $2.40. It sucks. Now, the thing is, the reason I can trust when somebody complains about that and I can think it's valid is because I know they're experiencing it. But when people are complaining about Overwatch 2 from the perspective of somebody who doesn't play Overwatch 2, makes no goddamn sense. I don't know why people still cared. People simultaneously cared and people didn't care at the same time. I think that people need to get their shit together when they make opinions on the internet. I don't like this back and forth. I don't like these contradictions. I don't like the hypocrisy. I don't like the extremism or the subtleism, the passive aggressivism. I don't like any of the isms. I don't like any of the Aussies, the hypocrisies, the fucking. I ran out of Aussies. Anyway, I don't like this player base. I hate it. I genuinely hate the players that I play with. I hate them. They are what's wrong with the game. Okay? I'm being serious here. You, bro, the players are something that needs to get patched out more than Sombra needs to be reverted from her rework. The players need to be patched out more than we need to nerf Orisa, Hog, or Mauga. The players being patched out, improving the ban system to actually ban people who deserve to be banned and not just bad players. That is a horrible representation of the way we use our ban system that actually works, that actually ends up banning people. I think the fact that it is even acceptable to report somebody and hope they get banned for just simply not having a good day in competitive and just happening to not do performance, like not perform well. And then, their fucking career profile is private by default, so you can't actually tell that maybe they were a good player before that. And the fact that you would even look at a career profile and think somebody is a good player based off of that is also stupid. Come on, man, it's numbers. I think I'm done talking about this. I've been talking about it for an hour. I'm uploading this raw, and I'm uploading it unedited and everything. It's just going to be an hour of Overwatch 2 rant about how I hate the way you people think. And if you hear that and you don't think you are that way, and you think you're actually one of the wiser ones, I'm probably not talking about you, but at the same time, I don't agree with anybody in this game. So just because I'm not talking about you doesn't mean that you're not still a problem. It just means that you're not the majority, which I think is better. I still think that, like, if you're still a awkward fan and you believe in everything awkward says, I think you are still better than an Overwatch player that is average. I do not fucking uh I do not tolerate average players in this game. Awkward fans still have a problem. Flats fans still have a problem. Every fan of every content creator in this game still has a problem because they are all average gamers. And to finish it off, the reason that so many people moved to Marvel Rivals when it came out is because people were curious for something new. Actual Overwatch 2 players just went over there and then they came back. Not actual Overwatch 2 players bounce between both games, and I hate it because it's a representation that they were never actually Overwatch players. They were just players, they were just gamers. And what I mean by that, you have to be actually dedicated and actually loving the game to understand. You need to understand that, like, in order to understand the difference between a gamer that is playing Overwatch versus a Overwatch player, that difference takes years to understand and takes dedication and love for the game to understand. It's loving this game through thick and thin. It's not really caring about the fact that the devs released a bad patch because you know that they'll try to fix it the next game. It's knowing that the devs are trying their best. It's knowing that the devs are working an uphill battle with half the player base. That makes you kind of appreciate it like an old uncle in the back of the room that never really gets talked to, even though he has such nice stories, and even though he's not perfect. He still needs to work on himself. He hasn't gone to therapy. And he's from an older time where people used to care about certain things. I think that talking to that uncle is more worthwhile than going to the new 14-year-old honors girl in the family who is getting celebrated at the reunion for being, like, a young prodigy. I think that people cannot actually appreciate when this game gets better because to them it's a solved case. And Marvel Rivals is the new hope. But my true take, both games have their problems. Both games require love to see the true side of them. And both games need to fix the fact that they do not have actual dedicated players and they just have gamers. I think Overwatch has more dedicated players than Marvel Rivals, but I think both still need to fix the problem that not all of their players are dedicated to the game. They're just gamers. Now, it's okay if you have like a 10 or 20 or 30% of your game that isn't dedicated to gamers, but I still think having that 30% is bad. I think 20% should be. I think having a third of your game not actually be dedicated is kind of confusing and weird. I've been continuing this for a while because, like, this is a big thing. And I might want to make a bigger video on this later on, but this is just the unscripted rant for now. So, yeah, that's it. I'm uploading this unedited. I don't really care about this thing getting views or not, because I think even if I did edit it, it wouldn't really get that many views. Anyway, thank you for watching. Noche y este no and I will see you in the next one.